Everybody go. Fun. You can mix it up a little. This is just like my go-to. All right. It's like you don't have to do this.
I do have the swivel chair action going on.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I like it. Sweet. Good morning, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day Eve. This is welcome to our 43rd jam session. Started doing these privately in end of May, early June, and then we started doing them Facebook Live. I think right around the end of August was our very first one. So got some repeat offenders on here, and we also have some new faces. I say it's about 50-50. So we are super excited. If you read the copy, it's going to take a little more than a few inches of snow too. That was weak yesterday. It's like, come on, Chicago, bring it on. Actually, I do not want to say that. I shouldn't call them out because who knows? We don't want if we get 3 feet tomorrow, then I guess it's my fault now. But no, thank you for tuning in, everybody, and just for agents and partners, just for your engagement. Our primary mission statement with Real Producers is to connect like-minded realtors and also industry professionals in the real estate realm. And so what I am going to do is I'll have the agents introduce themselves briefly, have the partners introduce themselves, and then I'm going to get out of the way and we'll start jamming. I mean, it has been a pretty crazy year. I believe this is the 1-year anniversary of when the actual shutdown happened. So we have come a long way. There have been some, we've been through, pandemic, racial unrest, looting downtown twice. And so, if you're still in the industry, you're doing something right. And also I understand, and I just realized that realtors aren't, they lean on businesses that help elevate themselves in their business, it frees them up. So I'm excited to have Al, Bill, and Janelle on this as well. So let's see here. Realtors, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? Carol, go ahead.
I'm Carol Duran. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway, and I've been in the business for 34 years.
I'm Andrea Allen, Carol's daughter. I've actually been in real estate. This is my 18th year in real estate, but this is my 7th year as a realtor at Berkshire Hathaway.
Tom Campone. I'm with Keller Williams, One Chicago. I've been in the industry for 5 years.
My name's George Tully. I'm with App Properties, and I've been in the business 7 years.
Patrick Natale with the Grid Group. We're over at Compass in the River North office. This is 15 years now, 2 at Compass. Thank you for setting up 43 here, Andy. Yeah, man, we appreciate your engagement, sir. And like I say, as realtors, love what we do. We pride ourselves in being a non-pay-to-play model for realtors. We legitimately do all of our features based on closed production and nominations. Our events are private. We cater to the top 500 realtors based on production. We're hyper-targeted, hyper-local. We focus just on 606 zip codes. And so I literally cannot do what I do. Like, I get a lot of accolades and just, hey, magazine looks good, this and that. I'm like, I can't do anything without our partners, literally. That's where it all comes from. That's where it all stems from. So I'm very honored to have Bill, Al, and Janelle on here. So I just want to, those of you know my personality, know I'm pretty dry and I keep it light, but like, this is the 1% of my week where I'm dead serious from the bottom of my heart. Like, I can't do what I do without you. So thank you for, in a roundabout name, employing me. And my children, thank you, because our Costco bill is like 10 G's a month. So thank you so much for that. Maybe I could cut back on the 24 IPA packs. That might cut a little bit out of it, but it's kind of my guilty pleasure. So Janelle, thank you so much. I'm going to give the partners a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll start jamming. Janelle, go ahead.
Janelle Iaccino, also known as the Bug Girl with Pest Solutions. I'm the marketing director, and I've worked for them going on 16 years next month.
I'm Bill Katsoolias with Wintrust Mortgage. As Andy said, quarter century in the business, 12 and a half years with Wintrust Mortgage.
I guess it's me, right? I'm Al Dynia. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing in real estate for 16 years. I'm also a CPA and I've had some exposure to real estate for about 30 years total between the accounting part, tax part of it, and then as a real estate attorney.
A lot of experience on the call. Al, thank you so much. And Patrick actually is the one who introduced me to Al. We all of our partners are screened by realtors, and I kind of make they sort of the call, and just Patrick set up the exploration appointment. So I want to thank you too for bringing Al in the club, so to speak. That's it. This is where I get out of the way and shut up. Let's start jamming. So George, why don't we kick it off with you? When we were pregame, and you had some good thoughts just to sort of kick us off with. So go ahead, my man.
I was curious just to hear people's thoughts of when we might start see more inventory come on the market with how hot it's been the past. I mean, since early January, but the past month in particular, I would have thought it would have drawn more people, more sellers onto the market with how favorable it is for our sellers right now. So I'm curious to see what, if this is going to have the same seasonality as years past, if you think we're going to see more listings come on, or what people are thinking and what the conversations they're having with their clients on what they're seeing.
I would say for a lot of my sellers, the issue is not the value they're going to get on their home. It's where do they go next?
Yeah.
Right. With the market as hot as it is and inventory as low as it is, it's not getting top dollar for their house. It's paying top dollar for the trade up and then being able to find that house. So that seems to be the biggest hurdle when I'm talking to clients on why they're not listing their homes.
Yeah, it's like a cyclical thing, because if things are going quickly, but then there's nothing for them to buy. So that's definitely tough. I'm seeing the same thing.
It's interesting, and I'll chime in while I'm being a realtor. I can tell you from where I live, and I think it might be, city or neighborhood. I live in Northbrook, right? So we've got, probably a higher population of folks that are, probably more in the higher risk area, right? And the conversations that I'm hearing just in being at with my kids at hockey or with everything else going on, people are holding off just based on not yet being vaccinated. I'm hearing a lot of discussion about that once vaccinations start to really ramp up, that you might see more inventory come on the market. I mean, I would imagine out in the suburbs, and I know while we focus on 606, but at least out in this area, and I think that is starting to get a little bit more exposure in the suburbs as well. It seems like that's probably going to be a driving force. And I actually read an article on Realtor.com, kind of basically saying the same thing, that they expected that you might start seeing more inventory towards the end of 2021 into the spring of 2022, right? So, who knows how accurate? Obviously nobody has a crystal ball, but I mean, it seems like to some extent that might be a realistic perspective.
I mean, I think the bigger question is there going to be enough inventory, even if people come off the sidelines, to satisfy demand at these lower rates? I mean, I think if you look at housing starts, they're up, but they're nowhere near like the historical highs. So we've got one piece of the puzzle, right? Or actually, we're kind of like getting hit on both ends of the spectrum. Like housing starts are relatively low or like middle of the road, and then existing inventory is not coming to the market. So it's pretty much like a double whammy. So I don't know which of those changes over the next year is really I don't know if there's enough from either side of those equations to satisfy the demand.
I also think big picture, with what happened with COVID, it made everyone's top priority living space, which makes sense. So that is what like the market and people care about most. And you pump $4 trillion into the economy, that money finds its way to housing. And I think with this new round, we have a new injection of money coming in, and demand's already high. I think it's going to be another, I think it's just living space is what people care most about right now. And that's being reflected in kind of how demand is outstripping inventory. And I do think it's, you can get into these cycles where, I'm in the same boat where I have clients that are looking, that are want to buy first because they don't want to list their place and have nowhere to go. And it's a tricky, it's a tricky market to navigate in that way.
Do any of your buyers want to come downtown? No, I mean, it right now you're seeing the neighborhoods, very tight inventory, Wicker Park, Bucktown, Westtown, Lincoln Park, and anything I guess that's not kind of in a dense neighborhood right now, because I'm seeing lots of inventory in the high-rise, mid-rise loft buildings downtown, or not so much high, but more than more than you've seen in since last year or even 2019. And what's happening downtown is you're not seeing the demand or the contracts coming fast enough. Whereas in the neighborhoods, I feel like stuff is trickling in. Neighbors are listing like right after another neighbor goes under contract, and it's like a domino effect. That unit then goes under contract, and then the inventory is basically non-existent, because as soon as their neighbors go under contract, another home pops up, and within 7 to 14 days, if it's priced correctly, it's getting, I'm seeing multiple bids or, very close to ask. So.
Yeah, I was saying, but it's funny. I had a friend I saw who is an interior designer, and so many of her clients right now are in high rises downtown, and it's because they don't have the most optimistic view of where they are and wanting to list, and just making the decision they'll remake their living space the way they want it and hold off on people that might otherwise list their place and go elsewhere. I think they're feeling that pressure. For Loop Plus, Loop River North, South Loop.
And I'm still seeing contracts down here. I think they're at for right now, they're at prices we haven't seen in a while. So,
yeah.
So I was going to say, now is like the buying opportunity for a lot of these first-time home buyers to come off the sidelines, because this is not going to last forever, right? There will be like a reversion to the mean. And I think you're exactly right, Pat, that there are really bottom prices on these high rises, these dense neighborhoods.
And I think you said, whoever commented, like the first time home buyer piece for that is people, truthfully, there's obviously first time home buyers who are older, but a lot of the younger people are much more comfortable with being in a building where they have to take an elevator and there's common spaces and stuff, because they're less affected or feel that they're less affected by COVID. So those are the people we need out there.
I think that's true, what was said about once more people are vaccinated, that things will open up, because I know I may be the only one here who's already been vaccinated. And yes, we still wear masks, but we feel differently about being out and being with people. It just feels different. And I think we need that for more people.
I think part of it too is obviously the city opening up more and more. Obviously, we're at 50% capacity in the restaurants and the events, the sporting events, the concerts. Just getting more activity, more of the harmony back in the city is going to drive buyers, sellers, obviously more into the market. And so we get back to normal. And obviously that just comes with more everybody getting vaccinated sooner than later, hopefully.
What's interesting though is that when you think about it from a standpoint of, as people get more vaccinated and things go back to normal, that means that a lot of jobs are going to come back, right? The expectation is that there's going to be a lot more people getting back into the job market. The economy is going to keep going and getting better, which puts people even in a more position to buy. So what does that, what does that do to inventory if you've got people, more buyers jumping in and still not enough housing, right? So seemingly it seems like this would continue for quite some time. I'm not certain at what point that equilibrium comes back.
Yeah, I think the biggest question is like, how much longer are we going to have these sub-3 rates, right? So if we get another year or two, which sounds like we're going to get some information on today, right? If we get these sub-3 rates through 2023, that's fantastic, right? And I don't see I would agree with you, Al, I don't see what changes that makes this a worse market in the next 2 years, right? And I think that's what it is. I actually believe that rate creep a little bit, it will actually be beneficial for the market too, because it'll put a sense of urgency on people. And if they had a 6 or 12 month window of when they were going to buy, knowing that rates will be inching up is going to put that sense of urgency to get out there now and make that happen, right? Because sub-3 rates makes it, like we were saying before, for first time home buyers. I'm running the numbers with somebody yesterday, and it's like, wow, it's cheaper for me to buy this place than it is to stay at my current rent levels.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I had clients getting mad because it was 2.5 or 2.75 and jumped up to 3%. And I just kind of shook my head. I mean, I think this is Bill probably was, his phone was probably ringing off the hook when that was happening, but.
First time home buyer mentioned, we talked about pre-quals, obviously at 2.875, and a couple of weeks ago, the rates shot up right after President's Day. And, I talked to him about the rate being 3 1/8, and he's like, oh my God, that's so high. And I'm like, well, let's take a step back for a second here. Yes, they're higher than where we were at, but, and he's got a contract now. So, we have seen an uptick over on the 30-year fix right now, pushing over 3%. 15 years still under the 3% marker. So we've seen somewhat of an uptick already, and I've reached out to my pre-qual clients just to see where they're at, make sure that they, one, qualify still at that higher rate, two, just to get a gauge of where they're at, and maybe put a little more urgency and seriousness into their offers, because the rates are trending upward as we speak.
I want to go back to that pop of inventory. I think it's coming. I just think it's going to be April, May, June, at least for the Chicago market, the neighborhoods. I thought it was going to be like everyone else. I thought it was going to be February, March. Typically, even Chicago, the last few years, you've seen the inventory pop before Super Bowl in January, February. We didn't have that this year. I don't think we did. I think it's coming. We're starting to talk with more sellers that are engaging with us and getting their houses ready for photos and all that stuff. So I do think the inventory will come. I just, like Tom was saying, is it going to be enough? I don't know. It's, I hope more agents have more inventory coming, because I think we all need inventory for our buyers.
And I think it's harder to gauge too, just because with the market being the way as it is, I think a lot of agents are taking the approach of just get it to market and not push it as a pocket listing at all. Like, it just makes sense to get it out there. So it's a little harder to gauge how much is coming on, because so much, when you're looking for your buyers, you may catch something as a pocket or see things and you have a good sense of like, these 3 homes are coming on in the neighborhood. But now a lot there's more and more listings that I just had no idea were coming on. And I think that's, a function of just being such high demand that, whatever strategic advantage there is to listing it as a pocket, whatever you might have, it just makes sense to get it on. So it's harder to anticipate what the inventory levels are going to be when that's the dynamic. But I certainly hope, April, May, we'll start to see that. We'll start to see those inventory levels go up. I think it'll certainly help a lot of the buyers.
And where do you think these people are going? If we're talking about the balance between the buy-sell, the timing for the buy-sell, are they moving closer to family in another state? Are they going to the suburbs? What do you see happening?
Anecdotally, I've seen more people move out of state to be with family. And I have no idea if that's broader, but I think that's, I think everyone has a little bit of COVID brain and makes big decisions. And part of those decisions are just making a big change. And I think, so again, that's totally anecdotal, but I think, we might be seeing some bigger moves rather than just, downtown to the North Shore or city to suburb. I think it might be, and we may see the benefit of that, of other people coming to Chicago too. And people, in other states wanting to make a change, but to the underlying question of, but where's the inventory that they're going to go to, the people selling? I think that's a part of this puzzle that I'm not sure where that's going to fall into place.
Yeah, I've seen with people looking to buy out of state, as George was mentioning, we've always seen an uptick right around, January, February, March for second homes, Florida, Arizona, stuff like that. But I've seen a lot of, in the last 6 months to a year, a lot of people just buying another home out of the state for tax purposes. Seen a big change recently for people that I thought would never leave the state, family that would never leave, that moved out. sold their home, moved out to Arizona. 3 different families decided to go because they were just sick of the state of Illinois. So I'm working with a client now who's in the same category. He's got a job here in Illinois, and he's just going over the border to Indiana to pay less taxes. So we've seen a big uptrend in that, and in second homes. Obviously, I think people are, still always going to buy second homes, or maybe eventually convert it over to be their primary residence for tax purposes. So that's what I see. But I think with, the employment, as was mentioned earlier, once the employment starts increasing back in the city, we're going to get a new influx of people coming in, a new generation of people coming in from, corporations coming back into the city. So I think it's just over time. Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. We know that. It's just when, nobody knows, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of COVID brain. I love that term, George, actually, COVID brain on this idea that no one's ever going back to work again, in an office. I think it's a farce, right? So I think over the rest of this year and then moving, it's probably going to take another year or two, but I think we'll see a revitalization of downtown. I mean, cities redeploy resources better than any other areas, in the world. So I have high hopes. I know there's a lot of headwinds in the city and state, but I have high hopes that Chicago will find a way to redeploy all these resources and either, reallocate this office space or fill it with new companies. So I think that is going to happen. I think it's going to be an exciting time to be in the city yet again as we watch that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's commercial real estate, so it's not necessarily what we're doing, but I think a lot of companies, once people are vaccinated and stuff like that, they're going to realize that some businesses, maybe not all, some may figure out how to do more remote, but that collaboration, that working together, there's still stuff that's missing from those companies downtown that they're going to want back.
I think the pricing's going to obviously come down downtown, and I think that's probably maybe a good thing. It's going to give people, that never thought about living in the city or having a second home downtown, rethink it. But I do think all of us as agents have to have those tough conversations with our sellers and be realistic on pricing in high rises and, higher assessment buildings. If we're not doing that, this inventory we're never going to get through the inventory downtown. It's just not going to happen. And the opportunity for a reset for these prices were high, 2018, 19, they were getting very, very high. And I would say, if you look at, watch any like markets for stock markets, I would call it a frothy market. And, I think if we have a 10% reset or 15% reset on some of these high rises, it may be a good thing and not a bad thing to get people that want to live downtown into some of these buildings that are great buildings with great amenities and, not only fantastic walk to work opportunities that when work comes back, but just amenities, having the river, restaurants and everything around you that a big city offers. So.
Hey, Patrick, when you talk about downtown, you mean which neighborhoods specifically?
I mean, everything from River North, Streeterville, South Loop, the Loop. And I would probably not consider the West Loop in that, but the West Loop, I'm seeing a lot more inventory in the West Loop. When you just look at the overall, pricing in the West Loop, I am seeing a lot in the West Loop. It's not the West Loop. You used to be able to list something and it would come off within like hours, if not a few days. It was a crazy market in the West Loop, and it was for not just a year, it was probably for 4 or 5 years. At least since 2015, I remember listing stuff in the West Loop, and if you priced it right, it was a feeding frenzy. It was basically what you're seeing now on single family home product and townhouse product, or anything with space and low assessments. That's kind of the trend that I'm seeing in the city, or at least where my buyers are focusing on. They want space and they want low assessments. So the West Loop, I'm not seeing that, but I think if you look at the South Loop, the Loop, Streeterville, River North, even the Gold Coast, you're starting to see in each building inventory creep up and not enough buyers basically coming in.
What have you guys seen for new construction condos out in the city? Is it more, have you guys seen more builders just kind of holding back right now? Or, I mean, I actually closed one, the West Loop, just recently, and but just wondering how the inventory is going out there right now.
For condos or what type of project?
Or just in general? With the new
Anything
build?
that's been built in like the downtown neighborhoods that I've seen has been very expensive, over $700-800 a square foot, you know, so very low inventory the last 2 to 3 years. Anything that, you know, there's really not been a big project downtown. Belgravia's got one on Elston right now, and in between basically Bucktown and Lincoln Park, but and those are priced, you know, I think as low as 400, but there's nothing for first-time home buyers or even you know, a move-up buyer that's under $1 million a new construction right now.
I was just at one yesterday. A new project, which I was shocked to hear, a new condo project that's been, seems like forever since we've heard that. It's actually a combo building, and I was in the same boat as Patrick. I was kind of shocked at the pricing per square foot and even the assessments, and pretty much told them straight up, like, I'm pulling for you guys, but this seems shockingly high given like the climate we're in. So I'd be interested to follow these projects that are going on and see if they are able to you know, sell out and how quickly that happens.
I think a lot of the new construction I'm seeing is further out, you know, whether it's like Uptown, Andersonville, even Bridgeport. I have a buyer that bought a place in Bridgeport, new construction, and they're all gone. I mean, she got one of the last two, and then they were gone the next day. And so things like that, or even, you know, a little further, like even Bronzeville or, you know, Woodlawn. I think people are moving a little bit further out to do that because they get more bang for their buck, both the developers and the buyers.
Right.
You know? So
I can say that I represent a few small developers, you know, that'll put up a, you know, 3 or 4, and there's, you know, they're typically larger in size or duplex downs, and he's selling them like hotcakes in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, around Belmont and California area,
right.
Things of that nature I mean, he's literally on the market for 2-3 days. And they're good size, units. And like everybody on here said, is people are looking for space, you know,
Yep.
so. I think the smaller units, you know, are probably going to sit for a while. Although, and I was going to mention something about, to Pat's point earlier, you know, so with all the appreciation that's happening, it seems like you know, I read an article that the appreciation is outpacing wage growth, right? And so that there are a lot of that, like 87% of Americans are not able to afford the growth. So I would imagine that if that continues, that some of those condos, especially for the new buyers, is that they're coming down. That I think presents another huge opportunity. I would imagine, right? I mean, am I wrong on that, or is that seem like, from your guys' perspective as realtors, is that something that seems reasonable?
Well, I think people are willing to pay up because there's nothing else out there, you know.
Well, I think the appreciation, I think if you dive deeper, I can't speak to the rest of the country, but like Chicago, I think year over year, the average price point was up like 14%, right? That's not all appreciation. Like when you dive into it, you know, a lot of the neighborhoods are up like 3, 4, 5%. Really what a lot of that is in my opinion, looking at this data, is that the rates are so cheap. So instead of buying a 1-bedroom, people are going, let me spend another 50 or 75 grand because it doesn't cost me a whole lot per month. And let me go buy a 2-bedroom. And that's driving up that median or that average price point year over year. So I think when you look at the numbers, you know, like I looked at the West Loop last week and it was down 3% year over year, right? So, but if you just look at the median sales price, they're all up across the board. And I think a lot of it's driven by this cheap money where people are just saying, hey, I can finance an extra 50 or 75 grand. It doesn't really impact me that much per month.
And Tom, I think you combine that with the fact that this past year, no one's spending money on anything else. No one's traveling, no one's going out. And granted, this isn't necessarily a rational approach, but you're seeing, you know, if people see more money in their bank account each month, and there's, you know, super low interest rates, and you combine it, I think this is a factor with some of my buyers of they don't want to put money into stocks right now. Or a lot of people are like, this seems inflated. Real estate is something tangible that I can put my money in, even if the value changes, it's a tangible thing that has value. And I think you combine all of that, and it's people are willing to pay more relative, to wage growth. If your wages, you're going out to restaurants or traveling, you're investing it in long-term, the stock market doesn't seem like it's inflated. That's all of that, some of that excess money is just going towards housing, I think. In conversations with clients, I think that's kind of the perspective that they have and how they choose to spend their money. So I think that translates a little bit to this, appreciation we're seeing.
I'm going to pivot here. Janelle, what are you seeing in the market right now with home inspections, or just in general, buyers, before listing, contacting you guys? What's going on?
Very good. I'm learning so much just by being part of this conversation, but I see a completely different perspective because we're kind of the unsung heroes of the operation, right? So our biggest issue this last year was managing pests and rats specifically overrunning downtown. And I imagine that is definitely a roadblock in the if there's not humans there to occupy the space, then things are going to take over. And so we saw last year was just all over the board for us. We had an extreme dip off with commercial services because everything closed down, and all the pests kind of ran to residential areas where people were at home more. And you had people taking care of their houses and putting money into, remodeling. And that's what really kept things alive for us too, because as they chose to do in-home projects, they're stirring carpenter ants up and termites and all these things. And so it's really just been a roller coaster for us. But our biggest thing right now is that as public health protectors, we're offering sanitation services to a lot of the downtown buildings, offices reopening and stuff, to encourage people to create some kind of normalcy, go back to the office, create a safe environment for the progression and growth of things, into the future. So we're adapting like everybody else, but on the real estate end, we're finding that there's a lot of people just moving out of the city. We have 11 offices, so we service all of Indiana as well. So we saw a lot of people either moving across the border, where real estate is cheaper, and frankly, even me, I live in Uptown and it's affordable, but I live here because there's lots of concert venues. There hasn't been live music in so long, so I'm like, what am I paying to be here for? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people that are just going, just like it was mentioned earlier before too, going to their second homes. Maybe they have homes in Southwest Michigan and they're just making that their permanent residence because they can work from there. They can feel, more secure knowing that it's kind of removed from bigger populations. So we're seeing more people moving towards the outskirts of our territory, not so much the city. And I think that, being a business, we've been in business since 1860, and Chicago was the hub. This is our anchor city. We've always been the busiest here. It was headquarters, back in the early 1900s and stuff too. And now it's just that's the office that took the biggest hit because of all the commercial stuff shutting down. So it's definitely been a roller coaster, but we're fortunately for us, we kind of cater to all of Chicagoland and all of Indiana. So where we're lacking, we're making up in other markets.
Is there a neighborhood you guys are in more than others, just out of curiosity?
Uptown, Logan Square, those are the big ones.
Okay. So where I live
right now, downtown, it's pretty bad. So, and that's just because of lack of human activity, rats are just taking over, and it's horrible. It's horrible.
Just say it how it is, Janelle. It's not like we're streaming this live or anything. Just, that's the cool thing about these.
Person. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. They are
Yeah,
horrible. I wanted to show you what I brought for show and tell. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
Please do. We call this. I'll filibuster while you get your device. Oh my gosh.
It's officially termite season, and I wanted to show you guys some damage. This used to be a window ledge.
Wow.
This used to be a window ledge. But look how it's been excavated. I mean, this thing is so soft. If I push my finger into it, it'll just collapse. It's termite season. They are all over Chicagoland. I can tell you. So don't forget termite inspections.
There's a lumber shortage though. That's the problem. They're not gonna be able to fix it.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Every contractor is just saying their prices are like quadrupled.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It's tough.
Yeah, speaking of lumber, I just talked to one of the developers I was talking about. He said he was buying, I don't remember the exact dollar amounts, but where lumber was like $3 a square foot or foot or whatever it was, it's up to like $9. I mean, basically triple what it was, whatever the numbers are. He was just telling me that Saturday. And so their costs are, when he was building for 100 to 125 per square foot, now he's closer to 250 to 300 on his builds, and he's sitting. I mean, he's actually sitting on a couple of lots because he's like, I don't know that I'm gonna. I know I can get make some money, but the margin that he's gonna make is so much less because that price is not exactly in lockstep with the appreciation either, right?
Or if you have a 9-month project and your prices go up 40-50%. You're left holding the bag,
right?
Especially if you pre-sold those, right?
Right.
Well, a lot of the contractors are putting escalating clauses in those for those, for the cement, the lumber, changing prices weekly. Just unfortunately, they don't want to be on the spot for it, obviously, so they're writing it in the contract to protect themselves for future, increases on those costs. Hopefully, it gets reversed here soon. So I've been trying to encourage my clients that say, hey, maybe the numbers will come down by the time the contract. Just hopefully lumber and everything else gets more in line, and hopefully at the end of the day you'll save some money out of it. But yeah, that's the other part of the challenge now too, with rising costs and all that.
But I mean, ultimately, like whenever I talk to my clients on why real estate long term tends to go up, that's an exact point that I make. Is like, raw materials, labor, all those kind of things drive towards appreciation. So if your new construction costs, right, or like we were talking about, are high, it's going to push up the rest of the pricing around that project, as well.
This is a bit of a pivot, but I'm curious if any of your clients have talked about the Chicago's additional dwelling unit ordinance that they're rolling out, of allowing you to make it easier to basically have a rental unit in your garage or basement. If they're trying to, improve density in different neighborhoods. And if you're seeing, I've only had one client that asked me about it, said, can I build something on the back? But I think that's also going to be an interesting force at play in a couple of neighborhoods of being able to have a rental property, have a single family house, and have a coach house basically, which were obviously you had to get grandfathered in, but now they're making it easier to do it. And I'm curious to see if you're hearing from that in your clients, or what you guys are thinking about it.
I've had one client reach out to us, saying, asking if it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea if you can finance it or have the cash to get the project approved. I mean, if I had a multi-unit, I'd be building a coach house right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a unique asset to have. Who knows when they're gonna change the law to not allow it. That could always happen in the next 3 to 5 years. They decide to close that shop up. And if I owned a multi-unit, it was cash flow positive right now, and instead of getting out of the market, you wanted to make a value add to the building, I would definitely consider that right now.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what sort of demand there is for, a rental unit that's, a second story above a garage, or some of the other things that the city would say that, they'll be okay with. I think it's, I just, I'm not sure.
Here's the thing. I mean, prices that I've seen on our rentals from last year in the fall market were down 20 to 25%.
Oh, man.
Just on rentals. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're looking at it long term, who cares where the rental prices are now? Build it and get someone in. They're usually a unit above the garage would be probably a micro unit anyways. So yeah. It's not going to be more than $1,250, maybe $1,500 on the high end, and build it. Even if you're getting $1,000 per month for the next 2 to 3 years, rental prices will come back. I think this summer you're going to see maybe a 10-15% decrease from last summer prices. I don't think it's going to be down full 20-25%, but I do think eventually the rental prices will come back. And typically these are neighborhood rentals. There's usually demand for them. If you're in a pocket where you're close to the brown line or blue line, it makes sense. I mean, a lot of these investments these owners have had for a long time. They may not owe anything on it. Be a great time to talk to Bill about doing a cash I don't know, what is it, HELOC, or can you do that in a commercial loan?
Yeah, so just recently announced Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac put some little asterisks into second homes and investment properties last week. Okay. So they're they want to cap the funding ratio to 7% on a daily rate. So whatever we fund on a daily, we only could have 7% as a lender to finance getting backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So talking with some people yesterday and reading some articles, some of the lenders are already bumping up the interest rates on those products. Chase made an announcement, Fannie Mac made an announcement. So fortunately, those second homes or investment properties are probably going to start creeping up on the interest rates, and some have already changed that. So that's, they've already had, an adjustment to the rate just for being a second an investment property. A second home's not as much, but now we're going to start seeing some price difference for those clients looking to buy an investment or a second home, and maybe push them out of, maybe out of the interest of that, unfortunately. Sorry to be a downer. It's me and Freddie Mac.
Any other good news to share?
I was, on the first time home buyer stuff, real quick. There's a down there, we deal with IDA a lot. I don't know if you guys have heard of IDA, but they have a great product right now for it's called Smart Buy. So it gives the clients $5,000 in down payment assistance, but there's an asterisk with it because the program is geared towards somebody that has student loan debt, and they will pay up to $40,000 in student loan debts for the client, plus the $5,000, and all that is forgiven after 3 years being in the property. So, yeah, so right, yeah, it's like you have to take a step back and listen to that. So it's not ideal for everybody because a lot of people have tons of student loan debts. So you can't, if somebody has $80,000 in student loan debts, the program is not geared towards paying 40 of it down. It has to pay it all off. So there's trying to relieve customers of heavy burden debt, long-term debt, which we know they'll have forever, that buy something. So I think, with that in combination, if President Biden passes, a first-time home buyer tax deduction, and I've heard rumors of $15,000 tax deduction, and getting that program, $5,000 plus whatever student loan debts they have, and that's huge. And the program allows, for that buyer to be, making, just a little over six figures. So it's not the low income down payment assistance program. It is median income, as well too. So somebody that's established maybe in their second job in their career, I think that's a great advantage to, hey, let's eliminate $40,000 of student loan debts. It's a good selling tool.
I listened in on a panel recently about another loan, the renovation loan products and some of the caps that are available for that, especially where everything that is move-in ready for a single family house is flying. And I could talk about sustainability all day long, and I think it's something our industry in general starts to really need to think about what we're bringing to the table and the overlap between sustainability and real estate. But for those homes of being able to get the loan and make it energy efficient, get the finish, like, I think it's a really great product that's not being fully utilized, especially with how competitive, homes are that are, like I said, move-in ready. But the financing options on those, I forget what it was. I think it's 120 loan to value that you can wind up getting on your loan, and to not have to worry about having $150,000 in cash to improve a home and get it where it needs to be. I think that could be a really a neat tool for buyers. It takes a certain personality to do it, but I mean, one of the lenders that was on the presentation said she was doing 30 of these loans a month. So they're doing, I think that makes it a little less scary when people realize this is actually fairly routine on the lending side, to get these renovation loans through. But I think that's another really neat tool that buyers have. They just might not know it's out there.
I have a question for Al. Is there anything we can do as agents to get out of attorney review madness that we're seeing? March Madness,
Yeah,
attorney review madness.
I like it.
Tell all your buyer clients that the home inspection contingency is only for big items and not for the entire inspection list. Okay. And that will help us probably about 50% of the way. You have this weird confluence of factors happening now where you've got, even though it is as strong of a seller's market as it is, and I'm sure you guys are explaining it to them. I know I'm explaining it to them when I talk them through what the contingency provides. And I swear it feels like it goes in one year and out the other. And here's 23 bullet points that we want repaired, and I think that it really is incumbent on the agents, because you guys are the ones that have the most amount of face time with them, to walk them through that, right? And let them know that that's not the case, right? And be prepared. I mean, don't be surprised if somebody fills a deal on you because you made requests that don't fall within the contingency, right? The 7.0 contract specifically provides that if a buyer makes a request that doesn't fall within the contingency, the seller doesn't even have to wait. They can terminate just based on that inappropriate request, right? And I've had 3 transactions die in the last month and a half after explaining, all that diligently, right? And the agent explaining, I want you to request it anyway, right? Seller said, you know what? I had 4 other people put in offers. I'm done. On one of them, my client even came back and then said, we'll give you $15,000 more, right? Seller was so annoyed by it, said, no, thank you. Now, I presume that their backup offer was probably higher anyway, right? Because people would pass up an extra 15 grand for the annoyance, right? But I would say that that's probably, the inspection contingency is, I think, single-handedly one of the most misunderstood and one of the largest delays in getting deals done. And then secondly, I would say, if to the extent you do have condos, make sure that you're getting acquainted with the what's going on with the condo before you even list it, if you're on the listing side, right? Because you're seeing all kinds of surprise issues coming up, and I don't know why it seems like it's such a prevalent thing as of late, but it seems like, and maybe it has to do with more people are staying home, the associations are taking care of the properties more. But I'm seeing a lot of special assessments, a lot of projects, a lot of questions about what is happening in the association with regards to money that's going to be spent for capital expenditures. I think those are the 2 areas that really, if we can lock those down, we can be getting out of attorney reviews a lot quicker. Pat, right? I think you say that's probably accurate based on what we've seen.
I feel like it's a month now to get through attorney review. I always tell my clients, 12 to 14 days is what's typically happening right now, even though it says, 5 on the multi-board or 7 if you're writing it in on a 4-page contract. But I honestly feel like every attorney review is taking, 2 to 4 weeks to get through. And I'm wondering if, do you recommend, or do you think it's a good idea to order condo docs, basically the day you engage with them, which is probably at time of contract, or do you still want to hold off on those?
You know, I prefer if I had my way, I mean, I would have them immediately, right?
Okay.
And tender them immediately so that, you get that clock started and get that due diligence phase going, because, while you can close out, remember, that's a separate contingency. So while you can have attorney review and inspection, done, until those documents are provided, that's still giving another way out, right? So but ultimately, depending on, I don't mind necessarily paying for them, right? Oftentimes I ask the clients to pay for them. Sometimes you'll have clients that fight you on it, right? They don't want to pay for them until they've got a solid deal. And sometimes I can counsel them and I'll tell them, listen, ultimately, whether you sell to this person or sell to the next guy that comes down the line, you're going to sell, right? You're not changing your mind about selling, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to need those, right? And if there's just a supplement that needs to get produced, like, the updated paid assessment letter, well, that's a nominal fee in comparison to everything that's being spent. But you will have people that fight on it. But yeah, I think that's a solid idea, is getting them right from the get-go, and you guys even having them as well, just again, so that you're informed. I know, Pat, you do a lot, and you see them up front, and right off the bat, you let me know, which I really appreciate. Hey, this might be a potential issue, just heads up. This is how we're going to respond. We're going to pay it off, or whatever the case may be. So, I think the more you can do on the front end, the better off you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing, the two things you're talking about, Al, are exactly, obviously inspection is always something, but it's so surprising in a seller's market, they're being so picky. But on the document side with condos, Carol and I usually like to get those from our sellers before we're even on the market, so that we're prepared, because it's a silly thing to hold things up. And it's not just the buyers. Buyers want to see them more, I think, even more than they used to want to see them themselves, than for you to review them. And the mortgage company needs them too for condo, the condo approval. So it seems such a silly thing to be dragging things on when you could, if it doesn't work, then you want to be back on the market.
That's you're talking about, okay, granted, I know they've gone up in fee quite a bit, but you're talking $400 or $500 in comparison to several $100,000 right asset. Okay, it's again, I'm not flippant about spending people's money, but you have to be reasonable, right? And I think that's a reasonable expenditure to potentially ward away any problems later on down the line, right? And then it makes you apprised of what's going on, right? Both as a realtor and as a seller. You're like, oh, hey, I don't go to the meetings. I didn't even realize these were actual issues, and this is what's happening, right? And so those are good things for them to know, so that when that letter does come from the seller's or the buyer's attorney, it's not an absolute shock, and then you get a pissed off seller, because all of a sudden they're making a reasonable request, but because they weren't informed, it seems like a shock to them, right? So I couldn't agree more that getting it well in advance is the right answer.
I like what you said with, are you a seller, or are you going to sell this today, or to someone in the next deal? I think it shows the seller if they're truly motivated by getting these documents paid off, because it's you can't close without them, correct?
Right. No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to pause real quick. Let's get a screenshot of everybody smiling. Okay, please do not be like my children and smile for like half a second and then stop. So when you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling. Okay, are you ready? One. I think we can nail this on the first try. 1, 2, 3. All right. I think we have a winner. Yeah, it looks good. I think we're good. Tom, I have a question for you. I know I'm gonna totally put you on the spot. Right above epic, does it say do? I have
it says
to know.
do.
Okay, that's my question.
Do. I'll tilt that up a little bit.
Okay,
a couple quotes there. I'm trying to build this thing out, so I apologize for the
I love it. I love it.
I'm getting there.
Background.
I'm getting there.
Driving me crazy, man. It's driving me crazy. I'm like, dude, I was like, yeah, just ask him. Okay. Thank you I didn't even prep you for that question. So
well, I'm glad. I was looking for, I thought it was gonna be more of a curveball. That's the easiest question I've gotten like in the last week and a half.
Oh, the knuckleball's coming. Once you're on one of these in June or July, I'll ask you a more difficult one. So, no, but and we're what, like 5 minutes out? Like I say, I mean, and we don't necessarily have to get to everybody, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Just for, I block off about 60 minutes for these. It's always funny to me when, you're on a panel or a mini panel, or I don't know, whatever you want to call this. That's why we call it a jam session, because it's very loose. It's just people talking shop. There's really no script to it. And, it's just topics that are apropos to the market. But what is maybe one or two tips, or I guess action steps / tips that realtors and partners are gonna walk into over the next, between now and April? Like, what are the next 2 action steps? And anybody can go first that you're just going to implement into your business, or it's going to help sort of move the needle, so to speak.
There was that awkward silence.
Yes. No.
No, I count 15 1000 in my head, and it never gets to 15 1000. That's like my barometer. I'm like, well, and also there's a point where it's like, I don't want to go first. I know that everybody's on these, and then when somebody talks, you get like 3 people talking at the same time. So, and if nobody has any action steps, like, that's cool. Just go out and throw mud at the wall and kill some rats, and we'll be good, right?
All right.
So,
there you go.
but no, anybody, floor's open.
We're going to continue doing what we do best for public health. And as you guys come into the spring season, if you see any kind of bug or rodent, just think of me. And we're always reachable at 1-800-GOT-PESTS, or Andy can always send you my cell number. We can connect on LinkedIn. I'm your guy. So when you see something gross out there, just let me know.
One cool thing with Janelle, we only have a few partners who do this. They partner and support, obviously, the Chicago platform, the DuPage platform, and the North Shore platform. So we obviously appreciate it. Like I say, they're all over the place. You said what, 11 offices, which is awesome. So very cool. Also, I will pause. I will do this. You guys didn't know I was going to do this, because I get requests all the time, and then we can. So whoever wants to go next, hold your thought for 2 seconds, or maybe like 10, I guess. Let's see here. Oh, I thought I had this queued up. I should have done a better job of this. I get requests all the time. Hey, do you guys have an ad or a digital version of the magazine? And my response is, of course we do. But this is something that we launched last year. We were supposed to launch this year in the fall. Technically, this wasn't even supposed to be out yet. So I'm gonna do the screen share. We have an app. Some people don't even know this yet, but it's called Digipub, DIGAP as in Paul, U as in umbrella, B as in boy. The cool thing is you can access all the past issues. There's a little button on there. You can actually share stuff to Facebook and everything too. So if I get bombarded with, hey, can I get a digital version of the magazine? And I've been referring people to Digipub. So that is my, I don't know even really if you want to call it a plug, because it's not it's just something that we sunk up actually a ton of coin into to launch it early, just with the pause of the in-person event. So that is out, that is available. You can find all of our partners info on there. And yeah, so we're about 2 minutes out. Action steps. Andy needs to be quiet.
I'll plug this. I feel like this is my rant, and you may hear this again, but I think educating homeowners on home efficiency, the financial benefits of solar, all of that stuff makes the best marketing material. And if you want to learn more, Chicago Association of Realtors has a sustainability page where instead of, telling your clients to set the clock ahead an hour, you can say ComEd will come out to your house and change out all your light bulbs to LEDs for free. And it's just better marketing, hands down. And we're building out more and more stuff for realtors to help be that home ownership expert when it comes to how we use our energy and where we get it from. I think that's only going to be a bigger part of home ownership in years to come. So I think, and the more agents we have doing it, the better it is for our industry, better it is for our clients, better it is for their planet. So check that out if that's your cup of tea, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Not everybody has to go, but we got time for maybe one or two more actions that people are like, I gotta go sell houses right now, which is fine. So anybody last action
You know,
steps?
I'm going to be honest with my ADD. I don't even know what the original question was.
just
What are we trying to say?
one or two action steps that you're gonna that is a good focus, what you're gonna be focused on, you know, for the spring market, you know, over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, monthish.
I'll chime in. I mean, if that's what we're talking about, I mean, back to Pat's point is just getting deals done and getting people out of attorney review. You know, being as much on the phone with them and being as responsive as possible late into the night. Lately, it seems like early in the morning, and just, you know, being responsive. I mean, that's kind of our goal. Our mantra is making sure that these things stay on track and getting people to closing. You know, I think that's the most important thing, especially, you know, I mean, it's a hot market. You want to capitalize on it, right? And so you know, somebody's under contract, you got to get that contract closed. So I think that's our top.
Well, and I think to help both the things you talked about is for us as realtors is making sure that, you know, the buyers especially are educated on sellers too, but that because things are moving so fast, I feel like you almost miss some of that. I mean, even with your buyer consultations and stuff, some of them are just missing some of that because everything's so fast paced. So I think it's just really educating them on the process right away, because it used to be that they'd have a few weeks and now they don't.
Sure.
My action step is going to be when I talk with sellers, it's just more for the downtown market, is really be aggressive in pricing and don't test the market. Testing the market makes no sense when you have lots of condos for sale in your building or outside of your building. And I have to do a better job, and our team's got to do a better job of getting back to what's going to sell this at what price. And that's very hard to figure out as a real estate agent. I was able to do it in 2009 and 10. It took probably 2 seasonal markets to figure out. And I think it's going to take probably 2 or 3 seasonal markets to figure out how to actually price properties correctly down in the high-rise market.
I love it. Carol, you got anything for us? You have a wealth of knowledge. She's just soaking it all in.
Yeah, I am. Well, Andrea's been the one who's been out more this year, certainly. So she's more in tune to what's been going on.
Well, awesome. Hey, I'm gonna, just out of respect for everybody's time, I'm gonna cut the live feed in 3, 2. All right, live feed's gone. Hey, everybody, I want to be respectful of your time. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. If you want to get on another one of these in a few months, let me know. We'll shuffle the deck, get different realtors, different partners on, just to keep people intertwined. God willing, we will have an event end of summer, you know, depending on vaccination. So everybody will be well informed on that. And by an event, I mean an in-person one. We're fiending for it, I think. So I'll let you get out. Have a blessed day. And I'll see most of you, I think, on bingo this afternoon.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Andy.
Adios.